The best way to stay healthy is by making sure you're putting the right things in your body, which is easier said than done when you're trying to figure out the right diet and supplements to take. Good news. Cardamax Immune Booster has you covered. Right now, American Party Podcast listeners get 30% off your next 4 orders. Use the promo code American at Cardamax.com. That's CARDOMAX.com, helping you achieve your max.
Man.
And we're going to help some people today achieve some level of understanding about how insanely corrupt the FDA is and the pharmaceutical industry and all of this, right? I mean, I don't think anybody is suffering under any delusion that healthcare in the United States is on the up and up, right? Like, we all know that it's fucked up.
Absolutely.
From health insurance that provides no actual service, just holds money in escrow, and it's a great analog, right? So for these issues that are facing us economically lately, education, the average teacher and professor salary in the United States has gone up about 27% relative to inflation over the last 25 years. Administrative costs for secondary education, that is to say, universities, have gone up 2,000% in that same time frame.
Yeah.
So they've added all these new administrative positions. People get mad at professors, and they should be, because they're espousing this nonsense ideology, right? The wokeism, the 1619, the critical race theory, the intersectionality, all of this completely useless bullshit. But as for the cost, why we have this huge student loan crisis right now, it is because of the administrative side. Same thing can be said, right, about healthcare. Healthcare costs have gone up remarkably, not only because of the pharmaceutical industry and price gouging over drugs, but also because the administrative costs have gone through the roof, right? These are just opportunists who create solutions to problems that do not exist.
Yeah,
so they can get paid for it.
Well, I just want you just to go ahead and point out just how controlling Big Pharma and the FDA are. This is the lowest amount of viewers that we've ever had on a live show.
Yeah, so
ever.
far.
So let's just go ahead and start with that, right? No, I'm with you, man. I mean, I think the more you start paying attention, the more you start seeing just how controlling Big Pharma and the FDA are.
I mean, look how crazy everybody went on Trump last year for trying to pass some executive orders through that would stop price gouging, right, from the pharmaceutical industry. People lit his ass up for that. Like, he's the only person in a very long time that has even tried to limit the cost of drugs for Americans, to give them better options. And they try to frame it in whatever negative way they can. Oh, Trump's trying to make a deal with the devil to blah, blah, blah. This is all about politics. And maybe it is. But if his political ideology or if his political goals intersect somehow with us getting cheaper drugs, okay, I'm fine. That's kind of how that's supposed to work, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if the government was looking out for our best interest, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
if it's just there's too many politicians who are receiving money on the back end of this, and they don't have to necessarily be connected with it, but fuck, they got stock in it, right? I mean,
right.
look at all of it. That's one thing I would like to see is how many politicians, how many people up there representing the nation have interest inside with Big Pharma.
Right. I mean, it's a pretty common thing for people as they enter the political fray to put their investments in blind trusts or whatever. I mean, I don't believe that it's a blind trust for any amount of time. I don't believe that at all.
No.
And I also don't think that is strong enough. Public service, the phrase, the operative phrase in public service is service, right? Like, yeah, it might hurt you. It might set you personally back and your family back a little bit to offset, to postpone your investments or to divest for the time being and focus on your job and not have any kind of outside influence, right? That might fuck you up for a couple of years, but it's supposed to. You know what I mean? It is a challenge and a struggle and a sacrifice to go work out, to eat correctly, to help other people, right? And we all agree that the benefits for those things are worthwhile. And if you're going to be a public servant and you're going to continue to be invested in anything, there's no law against insider trading. in Congress or Senate.
How fucked up
Like
is that?
that? There's no law that says they can't use information they glean from committees that they're on, so it's like classified information, and take it to go make money.
That's fucked up.
There's literally no law saying that that can't happen. That is beyond me.
Yeah.
Completely beyond me. So, whatever. Some of the stuff that we're going to talk about today is going to make you really angry, and it should. And I encourage you to use that anger in a positive way. And by that I mean, go find more information. You know, talk to people about this stuff, and strengthen your understanding of this position that the big pharmaceutical industry, that profit motive in medicine is a problem. All right, that's what I would encourage you to do. Don't just get mad and fucking make some Facebook post about it. Let this enrich your life in some way and arm you for the battles to come, both ideological
isn't
and
it
otherwise.
like think about this. Like this is just one thing that we all see, that we're all very well aware of, right?
Right.
What about the difference in cost of medication for the brand name versus generic?
Yeah, how wild is that? I mean,
how fucking nuts is that?
just for, I don't know if a lot of people understand this. People that have worked in the medical industry, or particularly in the pharmaceutical industry, will understand how this whole system works. But I just want to go through, this will be a very short primer on how this works. So a drug comes out that does whatever, treats headaches, right?
Yep.
And you get a patent on that for 10 years, and then people can start making a generic version of it. So
you can charge as much as you want.
Correct. The pharmaceutical industry in that first 10 years does two things. One, they release a substandard product. And two, they charge whatever they want for it because there's no competitor, right? So for the first 10 years, you're overpaying for a shittier product. And then at the 10-year mark, they release the extended release version of it, which is a better version of that drug, typically. And then they can charge whatever they want for that for the next 10 years. So they have a 20-year window on any new drug they release that treats any symptom or another.
Yeah, I mean, and that's.
I mean, think about the thinking behind it. This is a drug that people need to improve or even save their lives. So for the first 10 years, to make more money, we're going to give them a shittier product. We're going to charge them more for it. Maybe make it outside of their ability to pay for it, right? Make it cost prohibitive. And then we're going to do the same thing again. These people that need this treatment aren't going to get the treatment that they actually need for the first decade of the solution.
Yeah.
That's how that works.
It's just fucked up, man.
Yeah.
You know, it's just messed up at how we gamble and we do this stuff on people's health.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think in the United States, it should be in just call the free world. There should be two things that are off limits of you fucking with: the quality, all that, quantity, all that, whatever, right? And that should be your liberty and your health.
Right. Yeah. The idea that we in America, I mean, we like to talk about our liberty a lot, and most of the people that talk about liberty now spend most of their time talking about how little of it we have, right?
Yeah.
And then we have a situation where we tell people in the richest country in the history of the world that was founded on the idea of individual liberty, we tell people you can be as healthy as you can afford to be. I can't think of anything more unethical to say to a human being than that.
So let me ask you this. So, just an opinion. Do you think that if we had stayed based, because there's this, I go back and forth, right? When I think it was in the 60s, there was a baseball player who said, "Good guys finish last."
Right.
Right. Good guys finish last. Right. And so I think that was the point to where the world changed. If you start looking at everything, you start looking at divorce rates, they got higher after that. You start looking at just how shitty people, and this is just my own opinion, right? This is what I've put together at a high school level education. But good guys finish last. And I think that was the point to where people stopped doing the right thing, right? Like it was like me before everything else. And do you think that if the big pharma and all this, if they had gone and they focused on life, on liberty and health, and they had done what was right, do you think we'd be the richest country on the face of the planet? So you see what I'm saying? Like back and forth, like.
Yeah, I do think so because what liberty allows for is people to do what they want. And what people will do when they have security provided for them and the Maslow's hierarchy of needs otherwise met, that is to say food, shelter, et cetera, right? They will start to dabble in things they want to do, and wants cost money.
But on the backside of it, like, so let me just play devil's advocate here. You got to admit, like, go back, let's say our generation and the generation after, for sure. I mean, they've been provided housing. They've been able to provide the basic needs, right? Like, life has been a little bit easier for them than it was our grandparents, right? As far as,
sure.
As far as like, I mean, you can have anything at a fingertip, literally delivered to your fucking door right now, right? You can order it, have it there, and get it.
Within a couple of days, probably, yeah.
And think about this. Our country's full of weak motherfuckers.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's something to be said for the process,
and they don't
whatever
care.
Happens to be.
They don't
right?
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Right?
Easy come, easy go doesn't necessarily mean that if you, it doesn't mean if you win the lottery, you're definitely going to lose it. What it means is that if you didn't work for something, you're not going to appreciate it, right?
That's it.
I ask this question a lot. How do you
balance it?
Yeah. How do you teach a child who doesn't necessarily have to work at all, much less as hard as their forebears, to achieve a goal or gain whatever it happens to be, right? Anything from notoriety to success in the workplace to intelligence or physical health, whatever it is. How do you do that? Elin G down here says mentioned the Ikea effect. I do think that is part of it. I think there's got to be some layer to the Ikea effect. For those of you who don't know, is this psychological principle that if you give somebody something that is basically 80% assembled, even if they only do the last 20% of assembly, they feel emotionally attached to that thing, right? They now feel like they were part of that solution, they were part of that process to create it, so now they care about it more, they treat it better, so on and so forth. How do you, in a society, for children, how do you leave that last 20% undone? It's like Papa Murphy's pizza, right?
Yep.
You know what I mean? You get it frozen, you take it home and cook it yourself. Like, how do you do that with these things that people need? It's really interesting to think about, to be honest.
But I mean, like, I look at my stuff. Like, I look at how I was raised versus how I lived. Like, I've been reflecting on this probably the last week, 2 weeks, right? Of how I was raised versus how I live today. You know, back, I mean, I had to fix everything, right? Like, there was no getting a new one. There was no taking it to a mechanic. It was like, hey, we'll get the part. You figure it out. You fucking fix it, right?
Yeah.
And now it's like, well, fuck it. I'll just have a guy come take care of it. I'll just have a guy come fix it. I'll just fucking do this, right?
Well, I think what we should be teaching our kids is what we learned. I think what made people our age so adept at dealing with shit is that we had both worlds. We had the fact that we couldn't either afford to or they weren't available to come do it for us, but we also had the internet that you go on YouTube and learn how to do pretty much fucking anything.
You would think that today you would be able to do more without other people than my dad and them were, because you can Google it and look at it in your hand, right?
But I think we were in that golden age where it was still expected that you do things on your own, and also there wasn't the availability to get somebody else to do it for you, but we still had the information to be able to do everything.
Yep.
I think we were in that age. That's something that's really interesting that we need to get back to, because it's permeated our entire culture all the way down to the way we think and learn things, right? So we don't, instead of seeing a headline on a news site or Facebook or a meme or something like that and saying, hey, that's interesting, I'm going to dig deeper, that other 20% in or that other 80% or whatever it happens to be, and find out what is actually happening. I just look at the headline and move on with my day.
But what about the pride you have in stuff when you start fixing it yourself?
That's the IKEA effect.
The IKEA effect, right? Like the pride you have in it. Like, you take, for me, for example, and I don't mean, the only reason I'm getting off topic is because I think this comes down to basic human beings of how, like, all these, me and you talk about principle based all the time, right? It's not politically, it's not anything else, you know, it's principle based. You know, like I'll take, so for me, I've started figuring out what is my time worth? Right? What is my time worth? And there's a value on that. And what else would I be doing with my time during that time to do this? So, like, I was going to pour concrete. So I was going to have a guy come in and pour concrete behind my shop to put my air conditioner pads on.
Right.
I've poured concrete my whole life.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not a big deal. These are small pours. So then I had this guy price it out just honestly because I didn't want to fucking do it.
Yeah.
Well, he came and gave me a fucking crazy price. And I said, fuck you. I know what this concrete costs, and I know what it takes to do it.
Well, think about that. Just that one example you gave. Now you're regulating. That is a natural capitalist regulation of the market. It's not the government coming in and setting prices. It's you having a second option and saying, you know what, your price is outrageous. So you don't need to keep prices artificially low. The market will take care of itself, provided there are enough options.
But back to the drug industry.
And there's no competition in the drug industry.
None, right? And here's what's fucked up is they have 10 years, like you said, 10 years from the drug being released. Nobody else can fuck with it, right?
Right.
Well, you know what they focus on in that 10 years? Not quality of the product, not making it better. They focus on the branding of you knowing the name Tylenol, not anything else.
Right.
Right. And so then what do you trust when you go pick it up? Oh, well, the generic brand. Well, you don't think it's the same thing, right? Because of the word generic, it's not trusting, all these things. And it's so fucked up.
All generic means, by the way, for those of you out there in the audience, what generic means when you go to your pharmacist is that drug has been around for 10 years and that the initial drug had a patent pending on it. And when it ran out, other people were able to manufacture it. It is identical.
So it's the same shit.
Literally identical.
Dude, do you see? So, hey, they're on here talking about this is how fucked up the big pharma FDA is. They never got a notification for that it went live today.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty fucked up. What's even more fucked up is what Austin Grog says here, which is something I can confirm. Opiate manufacturers over the years manufactured all these drugs, made them very easy for people to get, right? Paid doctors to overprescribe them, and then they came out with things like Suboxone and methadone, which are used to treat opiate addiction, which are also, by the way, opiates themselves, but they're used to treat opiate addiction. I mean, it is absolute nonsense. It is a self-licking ice cream cone, the big pharmaceutical industry in this country. Yes. It is way worse, in my opinion, than the military-industrial complex, because the military-industrial complex only works if we accept this bullshit. Like, we'll go through periods without a whole lot of war going on, and that's why people like Dick Cheney have to come around again and lie about weapons of mass destruction to get new wars started, right? Mm-hmm. But the medicine thing never goes away. People need it every single fucking day.
And you talk about the one the one reason that it is so big is cancer. Look at all this heart, look at all this heart medication that they give out every year for heart disease.
Heart disease is the number one killer in America and has been forever.
Yeah.
Right. And cancer's up there. It's there's no money in the cure. There's only money in the treatment.
You're my hero.
Let's get into how the FDA is a completely corrupt organization and should be eliminated from the federal government. All right. So, first of all, before we even get into the specifics of how the pay later conflict works, the former commissioner of the FDA in March of 2019, Scott Gottlieb, resigned his position as commissioner of the Food and Drug Administration after holding the position for 2 years. At the time of his resignation, Gottlieb told the Washington Post that he was resigning from the position so he could spend more time with his family. 1 month later, in April of 2019, Gottlieb was given a position on the board of directors at the pharmaceutical company Pfizer, who you may have heard of because it is the only FDA-approved vaccine in the world.
How crazy is that?
Since leaving the FDA, Gottlieb has gone on to join the board of directors for the venture capital firm New Enterprise Associates and a Washington, D.C.-based think tank called American Enterprise Institute. A former FDA commissioner sitting on the board of directors of a pharmaceutical company is an obvious conflict of interest, but it's not the only example of the connection between the FDA and the companies it is tasked with regulating. That's pretty rough, right? I mean, to find out after all this weird bullshit, after all the propaganda in the news about the vaccine and other things like that, and to find out that one of the current board members of Pfizer is the former, not an employee at the FDA, the commissioner of the goddamn FDA.
Yeah.
Right? That's a big fucking problem. So let's move on to this pay later concept. We'll get into this a little bit, and then we'll do some ads. So when a new therapy is under review by the FDA, It undergoes a process where a panel of medical researchers and patients, patient advocates or ombudsmen, whatever you want to call them, vote on whether or not it should be approved for sale. If the drug is approved by the advisory committee, it can then be sold on the U.S. market. That's what it means to be FDA approved. Excuse me. While the FDA uses a well-established system to identify possible conflicts of interest before such advisory panels meet, they don't take into account the kickbacks received by panel members at later dates. Science.org conducted an investigation into payments made by pharmaceutical companies to FDA advisors, both directly and through their institutions. The investigation found the following. Of the 107 physician advisors who voted on committees, 40 received more than $10,000 in post hoc earnings or research support from the makers of the drug that the panels voted to approve or from competing firms. So 107 physician advisors voted on these committees. About 38% or so of them, almost 40%, received at least $10,000 from those companies, the drug companies that were trying to get those approved after the fact, or their competitors. 26 advisors gained more than $100,000 from the makers or competing firms, and 6 advisors made more than $1 million from the makers or competing firms. Of the more than $24 million in personal payments or research support from the industry to the top 16 earning advisors, 93% came from the makers of drugs, those specific advisors previously reviewed, or from their competitors. Most of the top earners received other funds from the same companies, concurrent or in the same year before their advisory service. Those payments were disclosed in scholarly journals, but not by the FDA.
Interesting. But I'm sure that was an accident.
God damn it, man. This is your health that we're talking about.
Yeah.
This is the organization that is tasked with making sure that things that aren't going to harm you, right, are going to be your drugs, and the things that are going to harm you don't make it there. They're the ones tasked with making sure that the best drug makes it to the market first, right? Not the one that's going to be most profitable. And these advisors who are voting on this commission to approve the FDA are being paid off by the goddamn companies, and they're not even trying to hide it.
Yeah.
They don't go to any measure to hide it. They just don't post it on the FDA's website, and they hope nobody finds out.
They don't give a fuck.
After the approval of a drug called Brilinta, Brilinta, by an advisory panel in 2010, a cardiologist from the panel named Jonathan Halperin was paid or reimbursed more than $200,000 for accommodations and consulting between 2013 and 2016. Excuse me. Halperin was also paid more than $11,000 by the drug manufacturer AstraZeneca for work on an advisory board, service on a committee for a clinical trial for Brilinta, and for chairing the committee for a clinical trial at Brilinta by Duke University. So the company from the drug that he voted to pass paid him over $200,000 on multiple occasions here.
Yeah.
Right? Like he didn't just do one thing for them. He did 3 separate jobs for them after the fact, and he got paid for it. Science.org also found that in the year leading up to the advisory meetings, many of the panel members received payments or other financial support from the drug makers or key competitors for consulting, travel, lectures, or research. So not only are they paying them to approve the drug, they're paying them to propagandize for them after the fact as well. Competitors are willing to pay advisors for the approval of drugs of the same class because competing drugs may be affected positively or negatively by the market entry of a new contender or by restrictions or warnings placed on the new drug's label. So let's say there's 2 new headache medications.
Yep.
Aspirin, Tylenol, whatever. Aspirin is on its way to being approved, and Tylenol's like, well, if they get approved, we will too, so we're going to pay these guys to approve it.
For sure.
That's what's happening.
Yep.
While the payments may not be directly quid pro quo, it's certainly in the best interest of advisors to act in favor of the companies in hopes of financial gains in the future, either implicit or explicit. That they're not going to fucking vote no on a drug that's going to make them money later. These people clearly have no moral compass whatsoever.
None.
And this isn't even about the FDA as an organization yet. This is just the people that work for the FDA. these so-called advisory panels filled with so-called scientists, so-called medical doctors, right? These people, we've been told to trust science, trust doctors all this time. Well, it turns out the ones that work for the FDA, at least 40% of them, are full of shit.
Yeah.
Not only are they full of shit, but they're getting paid to be fucking full of shit. So, you know, why would anybody believe any of this? Why would anybody believe that the Pfizer COVID vaccine being approved by the FDA means anything at all?
Yeah, because all it shows is either what's approved just shows who's in bed with the politicians. Yeah, who's paid the most, who's donated the most. Yeah. That's all it is.
Yeah, Pfizer being the first approved vaccine, what that tells me is that Pfizer paid people more money than anybody else did. Right? That's all that really means to me. And it's really a problem, obviously. I mean, I don't think anybody can look at this information and come away feeling good about it, because
yeah, I mean, it's just all fucked up, right? Like, it is just it's so immoral to fuck with people's health. Now, do I think that, like, they have gone and put some, you know, crazy deal in here to fuck us up on purpose?
No, I don't think they're trying to inject fucking microchips into us or anything. I think they're trying to make money off of your desperation to be healthy.
But here's the thing, right? Like so come out and say this, right? Let me put my point out here, right? So the only reason that people think that it needs to go through this long trial through the FDA is because who put that there? The FDA.
Yeah.
Right? So if there's a faster way to do this, well, then that makes it better for all of us if they can show us that it's safe. Right. If there's a faster, but does that apply to everything, or is it only this, right? Like, that's what's so fucked up about all this, is this isn't complicated. This isn't a crazy deal. It's like, hey, with modern technology, yes, back in the day, you know, we couldn't approve things this fast and do it, right? Like there should be, well, if you can do this drug, well, why can't you do it with other drugs? Because you know how much companies spend on trying to get their shit FDA approved?
Yeah.
Fucking
quite a bit.
Millions.
We're going to get into the amount they spend here in a minute.
So,
and talk about where they spend it and how, because it's really interesting.
Well, because it's kind of crazy, like who they have to have these studies to show, and it's got to be certain studies and only certain studies. I mean, it's kind of like a fucking doctor mafia.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly. I would say that it is certainly a form of organized crime.
Like you talk about. So, like, let's look at Ibogaine. So Ibogaine is it's illegal because it's considered a class.
Oh, it'd be a Schedule I narcotic.
A Schedule I narcotic. Well, no, but it's under that because they say it's addictive.
Prove it.
Well, first off, I promise you, if you took Ibogaine, and you got these minions over here? Can they look it up and see what about Ibogaine is illegal? But anyways, this is my point to it, right? Is if you take Ibogaine and you think you're going to want to do it again, you have fucking...
I mean, dude, I want to meet the person who wants to do Ibogaine and it feels addicted to it, because that's an extraordinary human being.
Yeah.
Right? Holy shit.
And I'll tell you what else is crazy. I used to work for a company called AlphaStem, right? And AlphaStem's incredible. It's an incredible device. But like over here, you have to have a prescription to get it.
Right.
In Europe, everywhere else, you don't have to. You can get over the counter.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's about the way we talk about this stuff too. So, ivermectin is now being categorized as a fucking like a horse pill or some shit like that. So it's been this drug has been used and prescribed to human beings for decades.
So here's the difference.
It's not.
Here's the difference. The over-the-counter ivermectin that you use to put on cattle.
Yeah.
Is not it's not going to work to help.
No,
COVID.
It's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing. That's the problem with it.
That is so. Biden keeps coming on television and saying things like, hey, everybody wanted to pull out of Afghanistan. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That is not what anybody's fucking talking about.
Nobody's yet.
Everybody's talking about the way you did it, not the fact that you did, okay? And in these situations, people are talking about the drug the deworming drug, ivermectin, or they're classifying it as a horse dewormer. That version of ivermectin is. There's another version that has been used to treat stuff. And look, it's not antiviral, it's antibacterial. So I don't know if it would work or not. I don't care. Just the way they're classifying it tells you immediately that they're full of shit.
Yeah.
Because they're not classifying the right way. In the same way that with hydroxychloroquine, people were talking like, oh, Trump is telling people to fucking drink a fish bowl cleaner or whatever the fuck. Like, no, he's not. As a matter of fact, hydroxychloroquine has been prescribed to people for about 80 years. Motherfuckers. So this is nothing new. It's just the way they talk about it.
Yeah, it's all the messaging,
Anti-parasitic,
right?
that's right. Yeah, it's certainly not an antiviral drug. So I don't know if it would work or not. I don't care. That's not the point. I'm not advocating for ivermectin or even hydroxychloroquine and that combination with the Z-Pak and the zinc and all that shit. All I'm saying is this. The way people talk about stuff, they are afraid of the truth when you try to categorize something negatively when it's not true. Right?
Yep.
If somebody tries to package the response of their enemy, if you want to call it that, in a way that is clearly misleading, that is because they are try to shut it down entirely, which is what social media did.
Yeah.
Then those people are full of shit. They don't want to have.
It's called
the discussion.
propaganda.
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you what's not propaganda.
No. Ghost bed is
Fucking
not propaganda.
ghost bed is not propaganda.
It's hot as fuck. It's going to be 95 to 100 degrees every single day this weekend.
And my
over
air
Labor
conditioner
Day.
can only come down so far.
Yeah.
Kind of like you.
I don't know what that means. Fucking Delco Dan over here is not thrilled about the weather, I don't think. Why
not?
He's an East Coaster. He's not used to this 100-degree day stuff.
Is he East Coast? Is that why he wears shorts?
He's from Philly. Oh, you got to play golf this weekend? Oh, yeah, you're fucked. Yeah, I don't know if I would go out there. To be honest, you might die. Yeah, but Ghost Bed, they've got pretty much every bed they make at the top end now. The two, the Lux and the 3D Matrix are both cooling. They have great sheets, great pillows. The mattress cover, the mattress protector.
Yep.
Right? The pad, the mattress pad that they sell now, the mattress cover
it's got the
pad
cooling technology.
has cooling technology as well. If you're anywhere near any of this bullshit heat that's going on right now, you better get one.
Yeah.
Because
especially if you want to sleep in peace.
Yeah, I can't. That was the hardest. One of the most difficult things about being deployed, no shit, during the summertime was trying to sleep. What you would see is a bay full of naked dudes with just like a rag over their dick.
Well, like man,
no shit,
so
because you're sweating
so
much.
Me, I was in the Marines, and we had air conditioners everywhere we were. So like everywhere I lived, like we always had air conditioners. So I was never hot. Honestly,
we were in this giant abandoned mall in the middle of and like 800 meters away from Solder City, which has got you want to pick a big target when you're that close to Solder City for sure. The first two air conditioners we got went into the first one went into the commander and sergeant major's bedroom that they shared, and the second one went into the hallway outside of their bedroom.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot, Lamarcky Knowles. You are a fucking piece of shit.
Ooh.
Yeah, he was the 82nd Division Commander, too. No good over there. The 82nd Division Sergeant Major. Ghost Bed is dope. Right now, they've got the flash sale, 40% off if you get the base, the adjustable base, and a mattress. Any other deal you get with the code Drink It Bros is going to be 30% off. So anything you buy on that site.
The other thing is, I think that we should talk to Ghost Bed about marketing this piece of it. But how's the recoil on it? Like when you're
banging?
When you're having sex. I don't do that, so I do puzzles. So I'll tell you this, it's firm for puzzles. But like how's the recoil on that? Because I think that's a huge selling point for when you're having sex.
Is that what people call that, recoil, when you're
I don't know. What would you call it?
I have no idea.
You never even thought about it, have you?
No,
I'm a marketing genius.
I would say that recoil is as good a phrase as any.
So how is it? How is the recoil on it? Like, is it good?
It's very good, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, have you ever had sex on a waterbed?
I don't have sex.
I wouldn't recommend having sex on a waterbed.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's just, there's too much going on there. Anyways, yeah, you get those deals over ghostbed.com/Drink It Bros. You know the brand, and you know that we love it. Next up, you heard it at the beginning of the show, Cardamax Immune Booster, bitch.
Ooh,
I'm drinking it right now,
yeah.
actually.
Cardamax Immune Booster.
Out of my fucking Drink It Bros labeled ice shaker from Chris Gronkowski, Rob's brother. This is the best shaker ever. Dude, they don't pay us, but this I fucking love. Anyways,
and I'll tell you this with Cardamax, with the Immune Booster, dude, it is proven as coming from a doctor to prevent COVID. And I mean, listen, I've never gotten COVID. I was exposed like 3 times last week.
Have you been tested for antibodies?
Dude, I test for everything.
So you don't have the antibodies either?
No.
Because I think
I got the vaccine.
there's a pretty big. Well, that's true. I guess maybe you can't tell if you
Yeah.
had natural antibodies now. But
So-
I actually don't know how that works. But I think a lot of people have had it.
But I
That
don't.
didn't know, like in the early 2019 part, because that's the prevailing theory right now. It seems like a lot of people have been continuously exposed and never got it.
Yeah, dude, I can't. I don't think I could get. I think I could make. You know what?
What's your blood type?
B pause?
I don't know. Is that one of the ones that you can't get it? I think you can't even get it.
I'll be honest with you. I think that like I could go to somebody with COVID Delta variant and they could spit in my mouth. But now that I said that, I'll probably die from it in a week. So that way that they can put it on there. But anyways, I just want to say that with the immunity booster, it prevents against Cardamax immunity booster prevents against STDs, prevents against AIDS.
Well, that's an STD.
COVID. But I wanted to say AIDS as well. It's a big STD, kind of a big one. COVID, never gotten COVID, and I take it. Yeah, so it's badass, and yeah, I mean I'm a doctor.
Yeah, I love I love Sean Matson. I love
Sean is the
Cardamax in
man.
general. Cardamax Immune Booster uses all natural ingredients that increases the body's ability to adapt to stressors, increase muscle endurance, and provide immune system benefits. If you've been paying attention to anything in the news over the last year and a half, you know that keeping your immune system up is probably a good idea. Staying healthy, staying fit, probably good ideas, right? Tastes great, ingredients are healthy, and it's made by veterans and a fellow drinker bro, Sean Matson. Cardamax is offering American Party an exclusive offer, 30% off your next 4 orders. Go to Cardamax.com and use the promo code AMERICAN. That's CARDOMAX.com. Use the promo code AMERICAN. And you'll get 30% off your next 4 orders. That's Cardamax.com, helping you achieve your climax.
Yeah, baby.
Did I say that right?
Yeah.
I'm going to shoot. Everybody knows
So
that.
I love Cardamax.
I wasn't asking everybody in the chat what your fucking blood types are. I don't give a shit what your blood types are.
Hey.
Although now those of you who have my same blood type are at risk because I'm coming for your blood, bitch. Like I never know when I'm going to need blood. So,
Greg says he donates down here. Do you donate blood or semen?
Yeah, we're both.
Or both?
At the same time. I put it all in a 2-liter Coke bottle and throw it at people. With the lid still on. Obviously, I'm not slinging jizz on people.
You don't?
Not unless they ask.
It's weird. It's fucking weird.
Anyways.
Do you ever flip your condoms inside out?
No, I just tie them off and put them back on. There's plenty of room left.
So stupid.
Well, that's funnier than your joke, bitch.
But
All right. So now we're going to get into the FDA side of this, the actual administrative side. So far we've talked about, and I guess some of it is the administrative side because the FDA chooses which doctors get to participate. So I would imagine if people at the FDA who are choosing their advisory panels to vote on these things aren't getting kickbacks as well, that would be super shocking to me, right? Because everybody's got to get paid, right? That's just how the fucking world works. But so far, we've talked about the doctors being paid off by the pharmaceutical company. Now we're going to get into how the FDA is funded and how, because of some administrative changes over the years, the FDA is now funded directly by the pharmaceutical industry. Now that seems like it might be a problem. It seems like it might be a problem if you're a watchdog for one of the most important industries that exists, the one that provides our medical care. You might not want to have a massive conflict of interest where the people who are trying to profiteer off medicine are just able to do it. You don't want them funding the watchdog, right? Self-policing, not a good idea. So just a little history. The FDA was formerly an entirely taxpayer-funded entity until about 25 years ago. In the 1980s, the U.S. was experiencing quote-unquote drug lag, where more than half of all drugs approved in the U.S. had been approved in Europe at least a year earlier, right? So we were lagging very far behind Europe's ability to not only produce these drugs, but also to get them tested in time and approve them, et cetera. Patients and advocacy groups became concerned that valuable new treatments were being denied to Americans due to the amount of time it took the FDA to evaluate new drugs.
It's still that way. I would love to see the facts of how far we still are behind Europe.
Yeah, that would be pretty interesting and probably piss a lot of people off, to be honest. Let's see here. Yeah, so in 1992, Congress enacted the Prescription Drug User Fee Act. say that again, the Prescription Drug User Fee Act, which charged pharmaceutical companies for each new drug application filed, and the funds were used to hire drug reviewers and support staff. So instead of the government funding the FDA, now the pharmaceutical companies directly fund the FDA. In return for agreeing to the new fees, the FDA reduced the review times for new drugs to between 6 and 12 months. In 1995, the fee for reviewing new drugs was around $208,000. In today's world, it is over $2 million per application per review.
Fucking nuts.
So in the last 25 years, it's 10x'd. As a result, 45% of the FDA's yearly budget and 75% of its drug review budget is paid for by industry user fees. So Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson and Moderna and all these other companies, they account for 75% of the budget of the FDA that reviews their drugs for approval.
Well, I wonder what the problem is.
Congress has since renewed the Prescription Drug User Fee Act 5 times. So if you think that it's about Republicans or it's about Democrats, no.
It's about money.
It's about money and power, and it's about these motherfuckers in Congress under the guise of trying to help you, fucking you over and getting paid to do so. That's what this is all about, and maybe that's what all of America is all about right now. Maybe that's what our political system is now. It's just an apparatus by which, autocrats can rise to power and then profit off the suffering of other people.
It's fucked.
I mean, that would be a pretty good way to categorize the military-industrial complex, I think. How much money has Dick Cheney made for his friends in the last 30 years, the last 40 years, I guess.
Yep.
Quite a bit, right? All right, so now we know that these drug manufacturers are paying off doctors. And by the way, the first rule in medicine is do no harm, right? I guess people aren't really paying attention to that one anymore. So we know that the drug manufacturers, the pharmaceutical industry is paying off the doctors to make sure their shit gets approved. And they're funding the FDA, the very organization which is in charge of approving those drugs as well. So not only the organization being funded by the pharmaceutical industry, the fucking people at the organization are being funded by it. There's no stone left unturned here. They don't want to take any chances. They want to make sure they get their fucking money. That's what it's all about.
Here's funny. According to an article written by Donald Light for the Edmund J. Safra Center for Ethics. Since the pharmaceutical industry started making large contributions for drug reviews, the FDA has sped up the review process, resulting in drugs being significantly more likely to cause serious harm, hospitalization, or death. Well, so what do you think is going to happen with this vaccine that I took?
I don't think this vaccine is. I mean,
I don't think it's harmful at all.
No, it treats a single spike protein. It's not good enough. If anything,
I don't think it's harmful at all because I don't think. I'm not going to go into it.
Well, yeah, I don't think it is either because it only treats the one spike. If anything, it's not good enough.
Yeah.
Right. That's why now we've been through this. Let's Scaramucci up about it. We talked to Ben Shapiro about it on Monday on Drinker Bros. It's not that natural immunity. It's not that you should go looking for it now if you're in a class of people like over 60 or overweight or have some other kind of medical condition. You don't want to have pox parties like chicken pox parties like people used to and just get COVID for no reason. That's stupid. But if you already had it, you're probably good.
Yeah.
Like the evidence is overwhelming that if you've had COVID already, you're better off than people that have been vaccinated right now, and you're way better off than people that were vaccinated more than 3 months ago.
And hell, if you're vaccinated and you get it,
yeah, you're pretty much. I mean, look,
pretty much immortal.
If you've already had COVID and you've been vaccinated, you're definitely more resistant to the original COVID strain, but not to Delta, because it's not how it works.
In the article, Light asserts that around 90% of the drug approved by the FDA over the last 30 years are little or no more effective for patients than previously existing drugs.
It's just about marketing, right?
So yeah, we're not getting better. Light also alleges that the increased approval of drugs by the FDA since the implementation of the PDUFA have caused an epidemic or harmful side effects, even when properly prescribed. So basically, us speeding it up is not doing us any good.
No, I mean, the purpose, look, it's...
And what are we paying for? Like, if the cost is going up for all this shit, then what's you know what I mean?
Right. I mean, and that's the other part of it. So you have a singular organization in charge of approving these drugs. And we know that top to bottom, it is corrupt. Not only is it funded by the pharmaceutical company it's supposed to be overseeing, it's also allowing for the doctors that it hires or contracts to sit on the advisory panels to be paid by those pharmaceutical companies as well. Right. So there's no reason to trust anything they're doing.
Yeah.
About 53,000 hospitalizations and roughly 2,400 deaths occur each week in the U.S. due to people taking properly prescribed medications. That is to say, people taking medications and the amount and for the disease that they're supposed to.
There, you get this. 1 out of every 5 drugs approved end up causing serious harm, while only 1 in 10 provide substantial benefits compared to the existing drugs. If we ran a fucking company and this was our odds, we would never be in business.
No.
Because the FDA is overseeing this, right?
Yeah.
So the FDA, this is the government again. This is how efficient they are with all these fucking billions of dollars.
Right. And this thing about that number, for properly prescribed medications, roughly 2,400 deaths occur each week in the United States. That is 125,000 a year. So COVID, according to CDC data, is responsible for 640,000 deaths in America last year, or total, but I think 600,000 in 2020. So you're talking about 125, 350. You're talking about 27%, right? So about a quarter of the amount of people who died from COVID, or I'm sorry, that's not the right way to say that. 600,000 people died of COVID, according to these people. 125,000 died just from taking the drugs that they were properly prescribed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you're trying to weigh the difference or the danger between a corrupt FDA and just a virus that is mutating rapidly and it has a high rate of viral shedding like we haven't really seen recently, you could say statistically that the FDA is about 25% as dangerous as COVID itself. That's not a good thing to say, right?
Yeah.
That's like saying firefighters cause 25% of the amount of deaths that fires cause in a year. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Like no other industry would this even be palatable, but for some reason, because these motherfuckers are beyond reproach, this is just the standard.
I wonder what the VA stats are.
Oh boy, I don't even want to know. I mean, Jesus, can you imagine?
Oh, man.
So
the VA has killed more people than the Taliban.
yeah, like you said, again, it's in the 20 to 25% range. 1 out of every 5 drugs approved ends up causing serious harm, while only 1 in 10 provide substantial benefits compared to drugs that existed before that for the same treatment, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a new headache medication is twice as likely, right, to fuck you up than it is to be better than the previous headache medication.
Yeah.
What the fuck, man?
The article also claims that since the pharmaceutical industry started making contributions to the FDA for drug reviews, the increased speed at which new drugs are approved has resulted in medications that are significantly more likely to harm patients. Well, there you go, right? According to Light, the FDA devotes only a small percentage of its budget to protect physicians and patients from receiving biased or untruthful information. Of course they do, because all that other money's going in their fucking pockets.
Yeah, right. John LaMattina, a Forbes contributor and former president of Pfizer Global Research and Development, wrote an article discrediting some of Light's claim, primarily that FDA funding provided by the PDUFA that we talked about earlier has compromised the FDA's approval process. LaMattina contends that the pharmaceutical companies do not benefit from the PDUFA fees and would prefer that the FDA do away with the fees and return to being fully funded by taxpayers. Bullshit.
Yeah. Bullshit.
Are you fucking kidding me? Like, let's say you're drug company A and drug company B, and drug company A can afford to spend the $2 million on the approval process, and drug company B can't. It doesn't matter if drug company A's drug is better or worse or more harmful than drug company B's. They're the ones with the capital to make it happen.
The FDA and the drug approval process is pretty much like NASCAR. The fastest fucking car wins. The
Right.
most money fucking wins.
Right. Instead of compromising the process, Lamattina claims that the legislation has fueled much needed growth in the industry, and patients are benefiting from the faster approval process for new medications. Well, what we've understood is that there isn't a faster approval rate for these medications, and when there is, there's more harm intrinsically connected to that approval. All right. So, just to recap all that we've learned today. Currently, one of the chief board members of the Pfizer organization, who has made more money in the last year and a half, probably than they've made in quite a while. They have huge government contracts all over the world to provide this vaccine. And let's be real, the vaccine was meant for the original variant of COVID. It treats a spike protein and the main fucking cause of hospitalizations in COVID right now are a Delta variant. And what we know is that this vaccine is like 65% effective against the Delta variant, and that would not stand up to any kind of scientific rigor. Like that, it just wouldn't work. So this guy, who used to be the fucking the commissioner of the FDA, is now on Pfizer. And we know that these companies like Pfizer, Moderna, and et cetera, are giving direct payments, not in quid pro quo, but after the fact, for consultancies and research and all this other stuff to the very doctors, about 40% of them, who sit on the advisory panels who vote on whether or not a drug is legal in America. Now we know this final little part here, which I think is probably the worst, because it happens in broad goddamn daylight. That the FDA is funded, the part of the FDA specifically that is designed to review these drugs for our safety, is 75% funded by the pharmaceutical industry. This cannot continue.
No.
It will, unfortunately, because, what the fuck else are we going to do? And it just goes back to this, this thing that I always talk about, that if you're going to be a politician in this country, you should be completely divested from any other interest. You should be banned permanently from working in an industry over which you oversaw, or in an industry that deals directly with the government. I don't give a fuck if that's a slippery slope. I don't care if it's unfair, right? Life's not fair, bitch. You chose to go into government service. You chose to serve people, right? And if you did it only with the expectation that you were going to get paid for it later,
get the fuck out.
Get the fuck out. You don't deserve to be there in the first place. This Lloyd Austin guy and his the amount of stock he owns in the military industrial complex. Let me run this by you right quick. And this is a good cap. I think it's relevant to what we're talking about today. Let's say General Dynamics and Raytheon and all these other companies, maybe they've sold a couple of trillion dollars worth of equipment to the military over the years, right?
Yeah.
And maybe they see these wars winding down, and they're wondering where their next paycheck's going to come from. And maybe they've got some new advanced weaponry, right? More advanced than the stuff that the military has now, but the military's not buying it because they don't need to, because nobody else on Earth comes even close to having the same military technology that we do. Now, maybe we leave $90 billion worth of that equipment in the hands of terrorists that sit at the epicenter of Russia and China and Iran. Three countries that hate us, that have been trying to steal our intellectual property, both in the military and in industry, for decades.
Yep.
And now they can just walk across the border, and the Taliban can hand them the keys to an Apache.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe it's disabled.
It's not. There's flying.
It's hard to say you left them disabled, Joe, when they're flying around. So now maybe these companies like Raytheon and General Dynamics and et cetera say, hey, military, don't worry about all your fancy equipment over there being compromised, because we've got even better stuff to sell you now, right? I don't know. Maybe that's a crazy idea. Maybe I'm crazy.
Well, you are crazy.
Maybe I'm fucking stupid. Maybe I'm blind. Maybe it's me. But it sure as shit seems I'll tell you what the military-industrial complex and the pharmaceutical industries don't do. They don't take one step without knowing where that foot's going to land. They never sacrifice anything for money, ever.
Ever.
So, I don't know. I just... that makes sense to me.
Why do we not bomb the fuck out of all of our equipment?
Look, it used to be the standard protocol for a pilot, for example, whether it's fixed wing or a rotary wing aircraft.
Melt it down.
Is you put a fucking thermite grenade
Yep.
on that shit and you melt down ComSec or whatever else that's classified on that fucking thing. We for sure didn't do that because if somebody opened up a fucking Willie Pete inside of that Apache, it would not be flying through the air even 10 feet off the ground, right? That thing there would be a hole in the bottom of it. It melts all the way fucking through. So, you know, it's this. I hate feeling, I hate entertaining conspiracy theories sometimes because some of them are just so off the wall. But this is about cui bono. Who benefits from this? Who could possibly benefit from the Taliban having our advanced weaponry and being able to pass it off to Russia and China? The only people that benefit that is the American military-industrial complex that wants to continue wars and wants to sell their new shit.
For sure. And they both work together.
They certainly do. And the only people that benefit from the pharmaceutical industry paying off the FDA is the pharmaceutical industry, right?
Yeah.
And the politicians that they pay to keep in power. The pharmaceutical industry is one of the largest lobbying agencies next to the military-industrial complex that exists in this country. And they spend a fuck ton of money doing this stuff.
Question for you. How does Lloyd Austin stay?
I mean, look, I think right now they're in a big pickle in the administration. If they fire him, they're admitting he fucked up, which is admitting they fucked up. Because Joe Biden's statement was, this is our plan and all of our generals agree.
He
right?
said this is a success.
Yeah, he also did say that, yeah. But if he fires Lloyd Austin, if he fires the Secretary of State, if he fires the DNI or any of these other people, they're admitting that they fucked up. I think Jen Psaki's probably going to be gone pretty soon, yeah.
Why?
Because you can't, if you're trying to, their only strategy, the Biden strategy right now, is to deflect and hope people forget. And the only way you can do that is with a new face on the podium every day. That's, in my opinion, that's the only way you can accomplish that. So I would say she's probably the first person to leave. I don't think she'll get fired. She'll leave on her own. And it's, maybe it's just time. Press secretaries don't typically last more than 6-8 months anyways, because it's a fucked up job. But we'll see what happens. I'm going to head over to the Fox studio to record some other stuff today. I know you got stuff going on today. We'll be back later in the week, maybe, with some other stuff here. Until then, we'll see you in hell.
See you in hell.